Before Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic, before the Tuskegee Airmen, there was Bessie Coleman. Now, she was born in a one-room cabin in Atlanta, Texas in 1892. The very next morning, her mother returned to the cotton fields, and when she was old enough, Bessie followed. But the cotton fields would never hold Bessie. She wanted to amount to something. And years later, taking her cue from Brother John's teasing remarks about French women flying and having careers, Bessie decided that she would become a flyer. Though certainly challenging, the skies were easier to conquer than contemporary prevailing stereotypes, and fulfilling her dream sparked a revolution in the fields of aviation. And it led the way for new generations of dreamers and future aviation legends such as Benjamin O. Davis and Daniel Chappie James.
In 1915, at the age of 23, Bessie Coleman joined her brothers in Chicago. She became a beautician and worked as a manicurist in the barbershops of Chicago's South Side. It was here that she met Robert Abbott, publisher of the Chicago Defender, the voice of the African-American community in Chicago and across the United States. Always an avid reader, Bessie followed World War I and the military action of her brothers, who served with the Illinois National Guard's 8th Infantry, and especially the feats of Eugene Bullard, an African-American who flew for France. She, too, longed to conquer the skies.
The war ended and my brothers returned bragging about their experiences in France. Now, my brother John was what y'all might call a good timer. He knew all about the ladies in France. He was always telling me how polished they were. And one day he came into the barber shop to do some bragging. He said, "Hey, Bessie, I've been meaning to come in here and tell you something." I said, "What might that be?" He said, "I know something that French women can do that you colored gals ain't gonna never do. Fly aeroplanes." I got so upset, I took complete leave of my senses. I forgot who I was and where I came from. I put my hands on my hips and I shook my head and I said, "I'll show you."
Bessie confided in Robert Abbott, who showed her how she could turn her disadvantages into advantages. He advised her to learn French and prepare to attend aviation school in France. Bessie departed for France in November of 1919.
For the next 7 months, I nearly died in that airplane. I almost caught my death of cold. It was grueling in that open cockpit, two-seater French Newport. I couldn't hear a word that Frenchman was saying in that other cockpit. I had to work hard, and like Mom and Papa said, anything worth having is worth working hard for. I did. And on June 15th, 1921, I received this certificate, making me the first colored person of record to become a licensed flyer.
When Bessie returned to the United States, she knew she needed publicity to attract paying audiences. She created an exciting image of herself with a military-style uniform, Sam Browne belt, puttees, shiny boots, and a perfect combination of feminine and air showman. Her first appearance was an air show on September 3, 1922, at Curtis Field near New York. In a plane borrowed from Glenn Curtis, she was checked out in the jetty in front of the crowd. More shows followed in Memphis and Chicago, and then in Texas in June of 1925.
I almost got killed in one of my air shows. Mama begged me to stop this foolishness. She said, "Bessie, you've already achieved your dreams. What are you trying to prove?" I said, "Mama, as soon as I have enough money to break ground on a flying school so others can have the opportunity, I'll spend the rest of my life just helping other people follow their dreams."
She flirted briefly with a movie career and traveled to California to earn money to buy a plane of her own, but promptly crashed that plane and returned to Chicago to form a new plan. It was another 2 years before she finally succeeded in lining up a series of lectures and exhibition flights in Texas. At Love Field, she made a down payment on a plane from the Curtiss Southwestern Airplane and Motor Company, an old Jenny JN4 with an OX-5 engine. Bessie then traveled to the Southeast, where she did a series of lectures in black theaters in Florida and Georgia. She opened a beauty shop in Orlando to hasten her accumulation of funds to start the long-awaited aviation school. Using borrowed planes, she continued exhibition flying and occasional parachute jumping. As she had done in other U.S. locations, Bessie refused to perform unless the audiences were desegregated and everybody attending used the same gates. Bessie made the final payment on her plane in Dallas and arranged to have it flown to Jacksonville. On the evening of April 30th, 1926, she and her mechanic took the plane up for a test flight. Once aloft, the plane malfunctioned and the mechanic lost control. Bessie fell from the open cockpit several hundred feet to her death. Only after her death did Bessie Coleman receive the attention she deserved. Her dream of a flying school for African Americans became a reality when William J. Powell established the Bessie Coleman Aero Club in Los Angeles in 1929. As a result of being affiliated, educated, or inspired directly or indirectly by the Aero Club, flyers like the Five Blackbirds, the Flying Hobos, the Tuskegee Airmen, and others continued to make Bessie's dream a reality. In 1995, the U.S. Postal Service issued a Bessie Coleman stamp commemorating her singular accomplishment in becoming the world's first African-American pilot, and by definition, an American legend. For her pioneering spirit and perseverance, Bessie Coleman is enshrined in the National Aviation Hall of Fame.